Okay, I'm going to begin again. um, as you know, there's no way to cloak it or hide it. We're in a really pivotal time right now in the world, and it's, a time where we really need to be aware of the choices that we personally are making. Now, I've told you in several videos my situation, and it's come to my attention that, and I said this in the very start because I knew that there was something true about it. I have reason to believe, and I said this before, that the likelihood of me not being a part of the family that I was raised in is the truth. And I have, from my grandparents, received an inheritance and even gifts from others that believed in my talent, that wanted to give me that chance. They knew that I had a lot of potential. And I am more than grateful to know that that's what they did. But along the way, because of the secret of how I was obtained in this family, was by sinister means. It was not a straightforward thing. It was a sinister thing. And more than one person has told me this. And it's okay. You can check the sources, but all the details are forthcoming. They are. And there's no way to hide it. I mean, I already have been told. And so I know that I wasn't adopted in a legal way. I didn't come into that family in a legal way. And they're desperate right now, desperate to hide the facts because of, maybe the way the family would be looked at, But, I always learned that in Scripture that the sins of our fathers are not our sins. We don't have to take them onto ourselves. It's a choice, Well, they had a lot of time. In fact, a lot of people that were involved with this had so much time to come and tell me the truth. And they knew in their hearts, too, that anybody that this had happened to, wow, they would want to do the right thing by that person, that child, that person. And, because of the situation that I grew up in, I was naturally, a God-fearing and prayerful person. I wasn't always super religious. I mean, I'd go through phases where I was, and then I would get confused, or something about it just bothered me. I didn't really know what it was. But I finally jumped through all the hoops, until I got to a place where I finally found out some things that, were bothering me about it, that always had bothered me about the church as I was even raising my children, the church that I was raised in. And, it's very difficult because, you kind of get accustomed and used to things, and you think that there's nothing outside your bubble. Now imagine being in a different part of the world, in the same situation. You're worshiping in your faith. You believe in it. It's your world. You don't know anything different. And so if somebody were to come and take that away from you, man, you'd be you'd be like dizzy. You wouldn't know where your footing or your foundation is. Well, for me, to have to lose the knowledge about who my family is, not know who my real family is, and it doesn't sound like they're that interested in knowing me, but still, the truth needs to prevail in this matter. And just because they are the way that they are doesn't make me the way that I am. I know who I am. I think I always have, and I think that I struggled because of the toxicity, the narcissism, the siblings that want to pretend that they're me, or to be overbearing and take over my life, and the church that went along with them to do that very thing. Excuse me, shh, Billy, shh. But I am Lily. They're quarreling. They must have found a bone. Anyway, and so that's just it. They found a bone, and so we all fight because we all want the same bone, right? Girls. Well, you know, I mean, I just got an idea from what I was just saying for a moment. I know the truth is going to come forward, okay? I don't know why I was chosen for this time to be able to be a spokesperson, to be so lucky and so, oh, in a precarious situation to where I would need to be telling you some truths that, you know, are hard to tell you. You know, some of you have known me, you know, and you don't, you know my weaknesses, some of you, and some of you know my strengths. And that, you know, I have my own way of things and doing things, and I'm not necessarily dependent upon anybody emotionally for any reason. I pretty much pray. That's what I do. And, you know, I talk to my children or people that I have, you know, built trust with, you know, that's what I'm doing. But let's say, for instance, you know, and many of you are going to come to this conclusion after all that's going to go on in the news. You're going to come to a place where you're going to have a feeling like your foundation is, when truths are unfolding, you're going to find your foundation might shake a little bit. It's going to take time. And just because perhaps someone has misled you to believe something, it doesn't mean that your heart isn't pure and that you aren't trying to follow, you know, God as you know him. That doesn't mean that at all. It doesn't mean that you're a bad person or anything, because, you know, just because someone chooses to deceive us doesn't mean that our hearts are not in the right place. I'm sure they are for the most part. I think so. But it is still really hard because you've built your knowledge and your spiritual knowledge based on things that might not necessarily be true. Some of it is, you know, but there's some things that you might not know. And so be diligent in finding the truth. Don't be afraid to find the truth. I know they don't like you to go out there and do your own research and to find out for yourselves, but that's the terrible advice. It doesn't make you a bad person or less of a follower to want to get the truth about what you know, are devoting your lives to. This is critical. And it doesn't, and I don't just mean one faith either. I mean any faith. No matter what faith you're in, you should be getting to the core of what that is. You know, often when we're born into these families, we're born into these beliefs and these traditions that set the pace for who we become as a person. We just don't know anything else. And then when we find out that it might not be exactly what we thought, you know, it can really be difficult, you know, to grasp. You know, earlier on, probably the first video I did when I was first being made aware that my family was taking an inheritance from me. They were trying to they pretended like I was dead. I heard you guys had a complete documentary. You even, you know, had a funeral for me. Can you imagine the ugliness of pretending that your sibling was dead and you had a funeral for her? Also that you could pretend, and then when that didn't work, then you have to pretend to be her, right? And go into court and use her ID and all of these different things, you know, to pretend that you are her when you very much are not. So that's really silly. I mean, but this went so far. And along with this Unstoppable program, you know, trying to defame me and to try to really destroy me, they wanted to literally erase me so they could steal my inheritance and my birthright, even finding out who I actually even am. Can you imagine someone being so cold that they would do that? Now, it's not like I don't understand some of the motivation behind it, right? You know, you don't want your family name to be tarnished, I guess, when you were super proud. But if it came between that and a child that had been taken or improperly adopted or illegally obtained, if you want to say it nicely, it seems to me the desire to do what's right would make you a hero. It wouldn't make you tarnished. It would make you an absolute hero to tell the truth and to get the truth on the table. And then there would be no broken hearts, no cut ties. Everything would have been beautiful and fine, right? But that's not what they chose to do. They chose to destroy me in the worst possible ways that they could. And they got people, high profile people, to join in and do this with them. And so now it's become a situation that's it's just gone too far, okay? You know, and another thing is that the feeling that I've always had around some of them is always just been degrading. It's just always been this feeling of they were up here and I was down. I mean, it was always like that, okay? I was just beneath them. And I remember even asking, what's going on here? Why is that dynamic there? Where some people are accepted, but then other, but I'm not, So I knew that there was something awry all my life, right? Okay, I knew. And so when I left home, or when I was the teenager doing my thing, I completely ignored my family. I didn't really give them that much power over me. They think that they had power, but really I was out there doing my own thing. I really wasn't. I never thought of myself the way they thought of me. I knew I was special. I knew what my gifts and talents were. I knew then. I knew right away, like when I was a little kid. And so that never changed. And I'm surprised they didn't actually recognize that in me. But that's okay, because they were in a bubble, and that's fine. And I'm not here to slander or harm them in any way, other than to say that what they did was really extremely unchristlike. Okay, if a child is obtained in an illegal way, that's pretty serious stuff. You extremely serious, and to have so many people go along with participating in harming children in any way. Well, it's not easy to say kind things, but I do my best, right? Because I don't want to be as judgmental as they are. I don't want to come down on people the way that they have me, because I just don't want to sink to their level. Does that make sense? Okay, with that said, so when I first discovered what was going on behind the scenes and the things that were actually happening in my town, in my life, for real, not just online, but really in my life, it just all started to come together, where I could see what they were doing, and that they were ostracizing and tearing me down. The harder I tried, the worse it got. So it was pretty obvious. So anyway, back to finding out through research that my faith was not exactly forthcoming. It wasn't true. And it's very hard, because I already knew, because I was a member, that there's so many people there that really do love the Lord. They don't want to do anything wrong. Of course they don't. They want to have a safe place to bring their children. But and it's so easy to look over things because of the way that we were raised and groomed to believe. And so we let things slide, and easily we don't really put our thinking caps on all the time, because this is just what we've always done, and so we don't question anything. And that's where in every aspect of our lives, to not question the things that are going on around us, to just kind of blindly go along. It's just almost like we're all hypnotized, and we're just little soldiers doing what we're supposed to do, and we never ever question. Well, I always questioned ever since I was a little teeny old thing. So, I think it really is very important, to have that kind of mind, even if you wanted to call it a scientific, an inquisitive mind, to ask questions about everything that's going on in your environment, and try to point out things that you really should get some answers to, that not everything can always be so cut and dry. So one of the concepts when I came on was that, and I still feel this way. I think the main scripture, well, there's two actually, that I think are the most pertinent to me. And that was, Jesus said, to love one another as I have loved you. To me, that was probably the most important thing that Jesus Christ ever said. And I don't think he just meant Christians either. He was telling the world at that time that he was alive to love one another as I have loved you. That was the message. Now, there's so many faiths, and you wonder, why are there so many Christian faiths? There's so many sects. And that's even one of the reasons why, the church I was in, did their own things, because at the time in the 1800s, there were so many questions, and, plus, of course, there were the Freemasons and their school of thought as well. There was a lot of things going on at that particular time. And so I won't go into detail, because I am not the theologian, but I was able to listen and glean some information from, Mormon stories and to pray about it and to think about what was going on around me. Now, because I was always a prayerful person, whether I was being good or being bad, or not bad, but rowdy, there was really never a time in my life that I didn't feel like, well, there might have been a couple times. I think, I know I'm in trouble with you, God, but I'm going to pray to you anyway, but that's kind of the way it was. I wanted to pray to him anyway, because I knew that the Savior had already come and that he had died for our sins. I knew that. Now, I say that to you because I believe that for myself. I believe it, and I believe that he really is the Savior, because he loved everybody. He didn't say, well, I just love the people that believe me. He never said that. He was trying to reach the world. He wasn't just trying to reach one faith. He was just trying to tell you that, that he was coming here, sent by the Father, to die for us on the cross. Or come, and some people believe that he has come as God, the Father. Now, when I was raised to believe, was that there's three, but they're three in one. So, there's lots of schools of thought on that one too. But I believe that Jesus Christ is the only begotten Son. Now, I am not claiming to be a part of any particular faith, but I am a Christian, meaning that I love the Savior. And when he left his message, he was saying this to everyone. Some believed him, some didn't. That was their choice because, in his wisdom and mercy, he's given us free agency. And the very minute that somebody tries to take your freedom of choice, your free agency away, there's no debate needed. It's not of God, okay? Even if you are a Christian and you're trying to do the best you can, you cannot truly love everyone if you are not allowing them to have their free agency, period, okay? So I'm not going to stand here and tell somebody, oh no, you can't believe that because, you'll just be wrong and God won't love you anymore, because that's a lie. If somebody ever tells you that, it's a lie. Jesus Christ loves you. He does. And he's not talking to one faith. He's talking to everybody. Okay? And whether you believe him or not. The other thing that he said is that, when Jesus comes, that every knee will bow and every tongue will confess that Jesus Christ is the Lord. He is. And I really believe it. I really do. And I believe that he loves all of us, no matter what our race, religion, economic levels, where we were born. We are children of him. We are his creation. We are. And he loves every one of us. And so my issues too, when church and state and church and government meld together, that can create that has always, if you check your history, it has always been a problem. It really creates a very biased society. It isn't, and while I think that we should have laws based on, practical and thoughtful, prudent, laws that are just and fair and have humanity in mind, not just punish, or get all the money that we can out of this guy, I mean, we really need to have a legal system that really does want to get down to the truth. That really does matter what the facts and the evidence are. We care about these things. It's just, integrity it's something that should be expected, that we have just completely, I've heard people, oh, well, that's a bad judge, or that was a bad cop. Are we listening to what we're saying? And how is that okay? I mean, shouldn't it all be kind of streamlined where, they all better be good or they're gone? I would think so. And there needs to be somebody, even policing that to make sure that those things are happening in a prudent and fair way. Now, I'm talking sense. Some people don't like to hear say no. We have an agenda here. You can't be talking sense to these people. No way. But when Jesus comes, it was the intention of him coming is for a free society, right? and to be able to use our gifts and talents, to be the people that we were born to be. What is going to happen to all those gifts and talents if we've got AI that can write songs for us? Maybe they can even get a robot to paint a beautiful picture, better than Picasso. Better. You know, and we're obsolete because we can get, it's like the song I sang, in the year 2525, if man is still alive. We have so many gifts and talents inside of us. Sure, I'm not saying that AI is, I mean, we are going to technologically advance. That is very cool, especially in the area of medicine and longevity. I'm all for that, you know. But when you have a technology that has great potential to cause unacceptable harm to society, that's a big deal. And I can see that too. We need to if there's something that is contrary to humanity as a whole, then we need to step back from just our regular day-to-day. Oh, but they're promising to give me a car. I'm going to have this really cool system where I can get my stocks and know exactly what to put in, you know. I mean, I think that's a good idea, okay? There's a lot of amazing ideas, but some of it, when it has to do with replacing us, and so that we don't have to use our own minds, we actually could become a vegetable. You know, we won't have our arms and legs. We'll have machines doing that for you. Oh, in the song. So you have to be careful what you ask for. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Be careful what you ask for, and have an open mind to new ideas and new things. Now I do. My mind has been open, and people say, no, believe this, no, believe that. But this is what I feel I'm supposed to be, in this neutral space where I can speak for a lot of people, okay? I believe, and I'm sure it has something to do with my upbringing, but let me tell you something. When I was a little girl, I didn't have much time to be indoctrinated, especially not in the household that I was in. And I had a mom that was very physically abusive, and I was just a little kid, a very little kid. And I'll tell you a story that actually one of the readers said that I recognized the story immediately. When I was 6 years old, my mom, you know, that I was raised by, went to a movie with a cousin of on my father's side, and I'm first grade, and so when she left, she said, I want you to wipe out the counter and put the dish, you know, and wash the dishes. The kitchen better be clean when I get home. So I did that, and there was just really one cup, one saucer, and I put it in the sink, and I wiped everything down, and I went to bed. And I slept on the top bunk. My sibling was on the, younger sister was on the bottom, and my mother watched children at the time, and there were papers on the bedroom floor, like, you know, colored paper from the kids that she'd been babysitting. And I was on the top bunk, and I was asleep, and when she came in, she saw the cup and the saucer, and she was completely outraged. And so she came in. Now, she came in and grabbed me from the top bunk, and somehow gave me a bloody nose and dragged me, and then she stepped on a piece of paper and slipped, and her leg went up under the bottom bunk, and the rail from, you know how low the bottom bunk is to the floor, so she slipped on that paper, pulled me down. I was bleeding on her. Her leg went up under that railing, and it crushed her ankle. Okay. My dad was working out at, you know, at INL at the site. He was just getting off the bus about at that time. I was screaming. My sisters were like, you know, there was no 911, you know, and I think you just dialed 0 or whatever to the operator. But I was still not even fully awake, but I was like crying, and I didn't, you know, and my mom was screaming because her ankle was crushed. And then when my dad got there, I mean, I don't even remember exactly how, all the little details, but we would always go to Alabama sometimes twice a summer, because my grandmother Richardson had heart attacks all the time. She had diabetes and heart attacks. And so we always went to see her because my dad was the baby of the family and he wanted to make sure he was there for his mom if she, passed away. And so we went there a lot. Well, this next morning after this accident, my grandmother Richardson died. So my dad got off the bus. My mom's leg was crushed and she was in the hospital. And then when my grandmother died from Alabama. So it was like a very tragic situation. My other grandmother came over and she said to me, if you would just have done what your mom said, none of this would have ever happened. And even though she was upset, and I certainly can forgive, to a little girl, 6 years old, that's a lot to put on a little child, a whole lot. And this was just one of the times. They were very, very physically abusive. Now, during my time of raising my children, especially when I lived in Oregon, I was being a counselor working on this particular tragedy, because it had caused a lot of emotional problems for me, even though I could make sense out of it and say, well, that was really too much to put on a child. I could, see it for what it was. But nevertheless, it was really a cruel thing. And I remember, too, when I would go to school, I was so scared because I was spanked so much. I would be terrified to bring home anything but A's, just scared to death. And so I would leave a lot of papers, and over time my teacher figured out, it's like, why do you have all these papers, you need to take these home. And I just started to bawl. I said, she'll beat me if I take these papers home, and she would, for any reason, would do that, yes. At that time, my mom was in a body cast from her ankle being crushed. And so my teacher, Mrs. Gamblin, called my mom and said, please don't spank her, and explained, that she was afraid that I would get spanked if I brought home papers that had B's or C's on it. So I came home, and my mom would have us, when she had this cast on, she smoked and all, she drank and smoked, but she would ask for her cigarettes, and I wouldn't bring them to her. I would toss them to her because I didn't want to get very close. Really, seriously, I wouldn't just just give them to her like that. But when I got home with all these papers, crying all the way home, really, just a kid, right? She said, oh, come here, honey. And it was just, it wasn't real. It didn't feel right. It was like, I could tell, come here, honey. And it was so fake. I knew, and so I'm like, inching up over there to try to get to her. And then, but it wasn't, there's so many other things, but the thing is that the emotional and psychological and all the other stuff too, no one deserves that. Nobody deserves it. Especially if you're put in a family and you don't even belong there. You don't even belong there. So they really didn't love me, like their child. I was a tool and a victim. And I'm finding myself right now in a hostage situation, people. And I've got, when they did this big scam to steal an inheritance, because, there are records of who I am that have been found. And so, but they got people that are high profile in the church to help them with this. They didn't want me to know who I am because to them I just wasn't good enough. Still, just not good enough. Not worthy. to be chosen or special, or to be loved by my own grandparents that felt like it was right to give me that inheritance. It was still to make me feel less than what I am. And because I was at Star Maker for so long, they chose, and other people in my family chose, some people from California, that also got involved in this theft. And one of them really had some high connections in government. And unfortunately, for everyone, especially me, they've gone way out of their way to make sure that these truths are kept secret, that they keep my inheritance from me, the truth about where I come from and how these people got a hold of me, to know about the gifts that not just my grandparents gave me when I was younger as a child, but also gifts that were given to me by other sources. And then once everybody found out there was money to take, all of a sudden, they didn't care about my talents anymore. They just wanted to take advantage of me, especially because of the money. Secondly, because reputation of church, state, government, family, and now even California, celebrity. I am a child of the Most High God. And I know that He loves me and that He loves you. And that no one, I don't care who they are, I don't care if they're Brad Pitt. Well, maybe I kind of do. But, I'm just saying, I really just don't, there's just no words to describe the heartache that you have all put me through. I wish you hadn't done it. I know you wish you hadn't done it too. But what you did was just it was so horrific. I mean, I would, it's embarrassing, isn't it? But not for me as much as you, I bet. The right things must happen. And then, of course, you know about them just suddenly snatching my SSDI, knowing full well what I had gone through with. As if that wasn't enough, I'm here, I'm getting SSDI, singing, not really bothering anybody, not doing anything to anybody. But they felt like they needed to take the SSDI so that I can go along with the bad guys, and then maybe they'll think about giving it back to me, right? Well, that's the whole thing, is that I'm being muscled to go along with them to get even the money that I legally qualify for. Okay? And then I come on here and I explain what's going on with the Social Security situation, that here I am saying, hey, wait a minute. I called, I know they got the packet for the review. I know the oncologist has my history, except that, they kind of got HIPAA, they kind of broke some HIPAA laws there, but still, they really can't prove and so, this SSDI thing, we all, and Social Security, we pay into this and I've worked, ever since I was 14. I even worked since I've had cancer. I worked for a couple of different companies since that time. And so the thing is that I wouldn't have lost SSDI. It would have naturally rolled over to Social Security. And so all of a sudden, without, writing up an actual new plan for Social Security, making it that proposal, putting it on a bill, taking it to Congress, voting on it, they just decided to change it because I'm complaining about obvious fraud. I deserve the truth. I deserve the truth about what happened to me. And there's other kids too that deserve that truth. And there's really no way that I think I believe in God in heaven above, and I know that the truth must be told. It must be told. There's no way that it's not going to be told. And I have a great faith in these truths. And I know that I won that case. And all the little, scurrying around trying to make it different won't change the fact that I won that case and I am the rightful heir. And and you can't tell me that I am not talented, because I've got so much talent and so much spunk, and I know it. I know it because God gave that to me. And He would be highly offended if anyone was to say otherwise. He gave me those gifts, and you should feel the same way too. Don't you let anybody tell you you're not who you think you are, you're not who you say you are, or that you aren't worthy, because I promise you, if you've got a gift and you know you do, boy, baby, you let that shine. And don't you let anybody talk you out of that. Don't you dare let anyone talk you out of it. And never be afraid of the truth. You know, the only time to be afraid of the truth is when you have something to hide. And there's a lot of people just scurrying around trying to hide their actions. Do you know how carefree and awesome it is to not have to worry about that? Now, nobody's perfect, and they can try to create false evidence or, slander. They slandered me to smithereens. You all know that. They took all of my constitutional rights, completely just destroyed them. And in doing so, destroyed themselves. There are constitutional rights. Today, and keep crossing your fingers, today, we have a Constitution of the United States of America that protects our rights. The government can't invade our privacy. They can't invade us for anything. They have to have a darn good reason for it. And so they want to say, okay, well, you're just this, because I have gifts, and it's true, I do. And maybe I am chosen, but it doesn't change the truth that you can't just destroy. And they didn't just come in to try to make me this chosen angel of God. They wanted to eliminate me, erase me. And they can't pretend the truth of that away, because you all know they did it. All of you that knew that I was on the unstoppable thing, I never signed a contract with Tony Robbins, ever. I didn't sign a contract with I wasn't even competing with any of you. I wasn't ever even talking to your boyfriends, your guys. I didn't even care. I don't even know who you are, okay? I don't know who you are. And I'm not responsible for what your partner said, okay? I really am innocent. So I wanted to enjoy my life and sing till the end of it. That isn't a crime, and I wasn't hurting anyone. But I was being hurt the whole time, for all my life. You might have been lied to about the church, but I was lied to about my family. I was lied to about everything. Everything. And so, lies just, you definitely want to have the courage to live your lives with integrity and to be honest, because when the time comes, when it's a critical time, you want to make sure you're standing in the right place. You're in the right, you're just and right. No, you're not perfect. Nobody is. But that you don't have to be ashamed of really anything. Because if somebody comes after you, it's all on them. And you have every right to tell the truth. Not only is it your right, it's an obligation. And if your friend or somebody is having their rights taken from them, and you see it, and you don't say anything, you're participating in ruining your constitutional rights. You're giving evil people the right to take away what you have that protects us protects us from the government. Otherwise, they could take complete power. And right now, it's happening right before our eyes. They're going in there like, bulls in a china closet, not even thinking, not following protocol of what they're supposed to do with Congress on these decisions. And we need to be saying, we aren't putting up with this, okay? Because a time could come, you're going to think, oh, well, it's okay, if Elon Musk looks at our Social Security numbers. Are you kidding me? Oh, I can say this to you, but I know that you don't realize how dangerous that is. Because as unbelievable, like, as an abused victim of identity theft, believe me, you don't want them knowing how much money you make. You don't want them knowing everything you spend money on or what you like. You know, I might not agree with everything that you do, but I sure do believe in your freedom of choice. I really do. Your freedom of speech is critical. Your freedom to worship God any way you choose that you feel is really, truly right. Now, if you're a part of a faith that believes in killing animals and killing people to your God, you're probably not in the right religion. Let's just get it out there on the table. That one, that's, if you're hurting innocent lives, no matter what type of life, you're demonic, period. You've lost your soul, okay? And it's very serious. Every little precious soul is a divine creation from the Most High God. And I bet you believe that no matter what your faith is. I do hope that you will awaken finally and hold tight to your freedom. It doesn't mean that you won't get all the benefits of this new technology, but wouldn't you like to have that knowing that you're still an independent, you know, free person in your country? This country, you know, it's going to change, and good changes need to come. Good change, safe changes. We don't want to close our eyes and become a communist country behind our backs. We don't want somebody just taking over and becoming a dictator. That's really not cool. And as much as you think you might, I promise you don't want that. Because things can change just like that. And before you know it, you're caught in something that it will be so difficult to get out of for the country. Keep praying to God. And remember to love one another as He has loved us. That's the message. No matter what your faith, that is the message. Love one another. Be kind to your neighbor. Neighbor and have integrity. Have a very blessed night. And say your prayers diligently for good things, for the best things.